Wakefield. Good evening, Wakefield, and welcome to the school committee meeting on this Tuesday, July 14th, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order and note that this is a virtual meeting via Zoom and broadcast on WCAT's Facebook Live page. I'd like to start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, I would like to take this time to acknowledge that Doug will not be joining our meeting this evening. Unfortunately, his mom passed away last week. So on behalf of the entire school committee, our thoughts and prayers go out to Superintendent Lyons and his family during this very difficult time. Thank you. Next is a reading of the mission statement, which I will read. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of the community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing rich and challenging curriculum, high quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs. Next on the agenda is the public comment section. Keeping in line with the remote participation guidelines, we ask that anyone from the public who wishes to participate in public comment should do so via email to either myself or Superintendent Lyons. And I did receive an email in which I will read to you. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay. This email is from Amy Lehman of 10 Fox Road. Dear Wakefield Public School Committee, hello, my name is Amy Lehman. I have 2 Wakefield Public School students. My youngest, who will be entering 3rd grade in the fall, is on an IEP and attends extended school year, otherwise known as ESY, otherwise known as summer school. As my oldest daughter got ready for summer camp this week, my youngest inquired, why does she get to go to camp with her friends and I have to do summer school online with my friends? That's a very good question. As a concerned parent who is watching private and nonprofits open their doors to welcome back children this summer, my request is simple. Please advocate to ensure Wakefield follows through with their ESY plan to open the Woodville School for in-person summer school on Monday, July 27th. For those who are unfamiliar with summer school, in previous years, it has always been held at a Wakefield Public School building Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for 6 weeks. That's 12 hours per week or 72 hours total of instructional learning and social engagement. This year is very different. Wakefield Public Schools announced that summer school will be held in 2 sessions. The first session will take place July 6th through July 23rd and be held virtually. The second session will take place July 27th through August 13th and may include virtual learning activities as well as some in-person instruction and therapies. We are now in week 2 of virtual summer school, which is 2 30-minute teacher-led Zoom calls, plus 1 30-minute specialist activity like gym, music, or STEM, for a total of 6 hours per week. That's 50% less than previous years. 50% less is unacceptable. Virtual learning does not and never will resemble the scope and depth of learning provided in a classroom lesson, especially at the elementary level, and most acutely for special education students. There is no social emotional component. There is no peer modeling. Elementary students have yet not developed their cognitive ability or the executive functioning skills to download and complete their virtual assignments independently. I have reviewed DESE's summer school reopening guidelines. Wakefield can check all the compliancy boxes, just as Melrose has already done. My request is simple. Please advocate to ensure Wakefield follows through with the ESY plan to open the Woodville School for in-person summer school on Monday, July 27th, and return to Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Our special education students crave, deserve, and require more than just virtual learning. Thank you, Amy Lehman. Thank you, Amy, for your email. All really important things. Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And I just want to note that a couple of our members have asked to hold the meetings for the June 24th meeting aside until the clerk is present, so we can move forward with a consent agenda excluding the June 24th minutes.
Move that the school committee accept the minutes of the June 18th, June 25th, and July 2nd, 2020 school committee finance and facility subcommittee meetings, and the minutes of the June 25th, 2020 school committee policy and communication subcommittee meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we have a roll call vote. So I will do that. Myself, yes. Susie?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Guida?
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is the business items. So that would be Christine. Hi, Christine.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight before you, you have the financial reports. These are the final fiscal 20 financial reports. The first document talks about all the local budgets. The personnel services section, which is all salaries for staff. And then the next section is the contractual services section. And the last one is materials and supplies. As you can see, the ending budget for the local budget was 0. We were actually going to be over budget because we had to prepare for PPEs, curriculum resources for next year, and preparing for all remote learning for Chromebooks, for devices. And we were anticipating and did receive the $106,000 reimbursement from the town from the FEMA reimbursement. So in the local budget ended with 0. The next page you'll see is by location, by schools, by department. The page after that talks about the revenues, Chapter 70, local contribution from the town, grants, and revolving accounts. The page after that talks about where we currently are with the grants. Most grants ended slightly over budget, and some we're still working on doing transfers. The Title I grant, we still have to do some cleanup work there. We're doing transfers this week to finish the grants, which most of them don't end till August. Metco as well. And the final page was the revolving accounts. As I've talked about in previous reports, we were concerned about the revolving accounts, particularly for school lunch and for Wakefield Academy, because we were paying for salaries for school lunch, and for Doyle. We were paying for salaries and not collecting revenue for those programs. We were able to charge the June payrolls to the local budget, so no revolving accounts were ending this year in a deficit. That's pretty broad overview of where we're looking for this year. This year was challenging, as you know, the last 61 days, the budget had to adjust. We were not, some of the purchases we had to make last minute adjustments. And that's when I'll speak a little bit more about the budget transfers. But I just wanted to pause at this moment if anyone has any questions about where we're ending for June 30th.
I think we're all set.
Okay. I think the next section would be then the payroll reports. As you'll see, the payroll reports, we had 5 teacher payrolls in June, in addition to the 2 regular payrolls. And I think the last payroll you'll see is when we paid the 33rd and the 3rd amount for the coaches.
Do we have a motion?
We do, sorry. Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants 50, 52A, 52B, 52C, and 52D as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Myself, yes. Ms. Vayer,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
yes,
Mr. Boudreau.
Sorry, I tried to interrupt before.
Oh, sorry.
I don't believe we mentioned 52E, 53AR, or 53A. I think we just went through the 5 on the first page in
Right.
the motion.
Okay, so do you have that motion, Susie?
That was what I was pausing on before. Sorry, you guys, because I was trying to find the reference to the smaller check that would have been the 1/3 coaches, and it wasn't showing up on the sheet that I have. So I need to add to the
Judy
motion.
sent out an updated thing on a separate cover like yesterday, because she realized she'd missed those.
the
With the
second,
updated motion,
Mhm.
and I missed that. Okay, so the updated motion would include 53. Can you guys just tell me what the other ones are, and I'll add it and restate?
You have 52D.
Yep.
52E,
Okay,
53AR,
okay,
and 53A, which is coaches.
got it.
So do you want to just reread the motion?
I will.
Thank you.
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants number 50, 52A, 52B, 52C, 52D, 52E, 53AR, 53A as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Myself, yes. Ms. Vayer,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
yes,
Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that catch, Mike.
Problem.
Okay.
The next item would be the budget transfers for fiscal '20. So because of the last 61 days of this fiscal year, we're so, I don't even know the word. We had to adjust our budgets moving forward to make adjustments to our purchasing for curriculum, for devices, et cetera. So you'll see before you the budget transfers in order to make the adjustments to all the budget lines. The first page has the amounts that need to be moved from those cost centers. And the second page, you'll see where the amounts are going to. And if you see on the second page where we move the money to, it tells a story. You can see we moved it to special ed tuitions, custodial services, extraordinary maintenance, building maintenance, instructional supplies, professional expenses, and textbooks. For obvious reasons, we had to invest heavily in building maintenance, in cleaning, in curriculum resources to shore up our remote learning. So we had to make all of these adjustments. So this is before you tonight for a motion to approve our budget transfers.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions, Chris?
Would we have likely needed to make a tuition transfer regardless of the COVID? I felt like we were on a good track there, and now all of a sudden we were $500,000 behind.
We are in good track. And if you notice on the financial reports, our circuit breaker line in the revolving account is in really good shape. So I thought it was important to use the local budget first and to hold the circuit breaker money because it revolves. And we're going to need that next year. We don't know what we're going to be facing at this point. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Christine? Okay, thank you. Seeing none. Motion, Susie.
Move that the school committee approve the fiscal year-end 2020 budget transfer request as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Myself, yes. Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So is that all you have, Christine?
That's it for tonight, and I'm just thankful fiscal 20 ended the way we did. It was a lot of work, a lot of almost bobbing and weaving in the end. Fiscal 21, we just started this week, and next month we'll have our first fiscal 21 report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you for all your hard work. Okay, moving on with the agenda is these chair comments. I just have a few things that I wanted to mention. The school committee meeting schedule has been finalized and can be found in the packet that is dated July 14th, and it is posted on the website. So thank you for that. The next thing on the agenda is I just wanted you all to know, which you already know, I was contacted a few weeks back about the school committee joining 100+ other school committees statewide in the passing of the COVID-19 state funding resolution. This resolution was created to support a safe and responsible reopening while ensuring that each district has the funds to pay for the enormous expenses required. And I thought it would be a good idea for me to actually read it. If you guys would all bear with me. Find it, here it is. It reads, whereas if schools are to reopen this fall in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is the responsibility of each school district to do so safely and responsibly. And whereas it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that each school district is able to pay for the enormous additional staffing, transportation, and material expenses required to do this. And whereas the state cannot expect mandatory COVID-19 safety guidelines to be followed without also ensuring that each school district has the funds required to implement these guidelines. Therefore, let it be resolved that the state must guarantee every school district full reimbursement for whatever COVID-19 expenses are required to follow state mandates. We must ensure a statewide school reopening that is safe, responsible, and equitable. There can be no unfunded mandates for COVID-19. So that is the resolution that is attached in the packet, which has all been signed by us. Does anyone have any discussion or questions in regards to that or comments? Tom?
No, I don't really have a question. My comment would be, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing this up and for including it. It has been pretty widely discussed and distributed from different parts of the MASC, and I'm pleased that it's on tonight's agenda and very happy and hope that we will be supporting it and joining our school committee colleagues around the state and urging the full funding. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a motion, and once it gets approved, I think it's important to note to the public that it will be sent to Governor Baker and Education and Commissioner Jeff Riley and other state officials. So I think I agree with you, Tom. It's a good idea for us to get involved with that as well. So if there is no other discussion or questions, we can read the motion.
Move that the school committee endorse the school committee resolution for COVID-19 state funding as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote. Myself, yes. Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you all so much for that. The last thing on my action items is we have 4 new positions open to the Human Rights Commission. The school committee is the appointing body for 3 of these positions, and the town council is the appointing body for 1. Sherry Dalton, the clerk for town council, will be advertising these positions, and our plan is to collect the letters of interest and resumes with the hope that we can make these appointments to the respective bodies sometime in September. So I just wanted to inform you all that we are moving forward with that. That is all I have this evening. So I guess I can hand it off to Kara for Superintendent Remarks.
Good evening, everyone. So as Amy said, I'm here tonight on Doug's behalf just to give an update primarily around the reopening plans for the district. As I believe Doug has given a summary already around the initial guidance that came out of the Department of Ed. So we've been really, looking carefully at that. And as a starting point, Doug and I made a point with Christine and other executive team members to meet with each principal independently in their building. We decided to take the approach of looking at the reopening plans, not only from a district lens, but also really narrowing down to the building level. So just to reiterate the guidance right now at this point is for districts to create 3 possible plans for reopening. One is for a full in-person return with safety precautions. The second is a hybrid model, which would entail some in-person classes and some remote learning, and then a full remote learning plan. And with while remote learning happened in the spring, there's definitely an increase in expectations and a need to make, they're using the term robust, make remote learning more robust come fall, if that's the case. So Doug and I have met with all of the principals. We met with that. We have a standing meeting as a group with all of our principals and directors to, look district-wide, pre-K to post for consistency pieces where we can have them. But then what we've also done is guided principals to create their own building-based reopening groups. And we've talked a lot with them about having a core team, but then at certain points throughout the process, bringing in other stakeholders to provide feedback and to give insight. So the principals have taken that and run with it. They've really, the core teams include building-based administrators. I know each principal put out notice to teachers for whoever was interested to please apply and share if you'd like to commit the time. We have nurses involved. We're trying to have a really broad group and really dig into the components of each of the buildings, because it's really not enough to just create a district plan. Each of the buildings are so different that we really want to keep in mind the safety details for each of those buildings, and no one knows those buildings better than the principals and their staff. So the way we structured it, we have Doyle as its own reopening group. We did combine Walton and Greenwood. We thought that would be a good idea because of the similar structure of each of the schools. And we also have Brian Schmidt signing out on as a brand new principal at Walton. So we thought that would, make sense to combine our two smaller schools. And then Woodville as a team, Dole Bear, Galvin, and the high school. And then we'll continue to work with Lynn O'Neill around what post will look like as well. And so we've right now, the principals got right to it and have been starting their drafting of plans. And tomorrow we'll start our first weekly check-ins with each of the groups. We've set up a schedule where Doug and myself and Christine and Lynn O'Neill has offered to be part of this as well, to check in with each of the building-based teams. And we'll do those a combination of in-person, walking the sites, as well as Zoom each of the weeks to check in. And we're kind of considering ourselves to be the bridge across the district so that, the plans are differentiated where they need to be, but consistent in other ways as a district. So that's really, our structure right now for reopening. The principals are really in the throes of the collaboration piece right now. And, I look forward to checking in with them. We did meet also with our district crisis team this morning. Doug typically, attends those with Bob Schiroli, our facilities director as well. And that has representation from police, fire, there's teachers, other administrators on there. And so one of the takeaways from our meeting today, as we talked about, as we're initially going through the draft plans, that we could potentially bring to the district crisis team some red flags that potentially popped up, or some, you know, hotspots where principals are like, okay, we manage this, but this is an area of the day that's just not safe, and we need to troubleshoot this. So, you know, all of the efforts right now, and this was the guidance that Doug, when Doug and I had met with principals initially, we said, let's put all the effort into the full in-person plan right now, and then almost work backwards, because that's really, that exercise will really give us, you know, the information we need to determine whether or not, first of all, that it can be done safely. And then if we were to move to a hybrid, you know, we can use information from this exercise as well. So, yes. So,
Tara, can I ask you a question?
sure.
Sorry. So I assume the intent is to have all of the schools in the same model, whether it's in person or hybrid. But is there any potential you may have certain schools are one and others are others? You know, one's a hybrid, one's in person?
I think, you know, at this point, the guidance that we're receiving from DESE is to create the 3 plans. What they haven't expanded on is whether or not, you know, what the approval process will look like for those 3 plans. Right now, every district has to come up with the 3 plans. And, you know, those are due on July 31st. And we haven't heard much more beyond that in terms of what that will look like. For Wakefield, you know, I think we would like to keep things as consistent as possible, keeping in mind teacher schedules, family schedules, siblings, childcare. I mean, there's a lot to contend with in thinking of this. You know, we have the needs of our students, we have the needs of our teachers, we have, you know, the needs of our other staff members, all, you know, trying to manage this. So I think our goal is consistency, where as much as possible where we can have it, but also being mindful of the needs of each individual building and the level of each of our students and what their needs look like as well.
Okay, thank you.
Answers your question.
Yeah, Chris?
I can't imagine not having them all on the same plan, because you're going to have all kinds of equity questions if you don't. Yeah, that would be a huge problem. One question I did have was, is the first day of school in play, or is it still being held to our calendar?
We're operating right now on the first day being September 8th. Part of the guidance, the updated information that we received on Friday, the commissioner had put out a frequently asked questions doc, as well as an additional note asking districts not to come out with any final plans for the fall until at least early August. So with that said, we're working on September 8th as our, you know, per our calendar that we developed last year. But little bit blips of information we're hearing are that you know, the potential for the 180-day requirement to be looked at, and the potential to add some front-loaded training for teachers to make sure that everyone is prepped and ready to go, because it's not a typical year that, even, you know, if we come back in any capacity, even if it's a you know, a hybrid model, that there's still going to be a lot of training and procedure overview and work that we need to do in preparation for our students. So I say that, you know, right now we're working off of September 8th, but I think anything has potential to be moved at this point.
Colleen?
Kara, I had sent you a quick email about this earlier, but more generally, when we're looking at our remote learning plan and what capacity we may use that plan, we're still looking at tweaking that and evolving that as we saw concerns at each level in district. So when you're meeting with the sort of the groups, the core teams from each of those buildings, remote learning is still obviously a conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, remote learning is another, while we're having the in-person planning be the real focal point right now at the building levels, the remote learning plan is also something that we need to dig deeper into as a district. And that's the plan where I see, you know, the most consistency in terms of, you know, just what the day will look like at each level, and what the schedules will look like. You know, I've talked before about the efforts we're doing with our curriculum and alignment and creating consistency across grade levels and courses. And we've recently also, and this was part of what Christine was referencing, the purchasing purchasing that we did to spend down the last budget was really in preparation to get consistent licenses, consistent tools. Scheduling has come up. I think we all agree when we think about the spring, we were in crisis mode. We were, trying to give flex where we could, but even the feedback that we've gotten feedback from parents, we've gotten feedback from teachers that if we go this route, there needs to be a little more structure, and we need to and we're aware of that, and I think the spring was a huge learning opportunity for us, and I think there were things that went well, and I think we did the best we could in the moment, kind of keeping the complexities of the situation at the forefront. But I do think that there's room for improvement, and I don't think we'd get a ton of pushback on that. I think everyone kind of felt that at the end, that if we were going to go forward, it's going to look a little different. And I think the state guidelines will also just naturally create differences, because there has been talk, whereas we were again more flexible with accountability in the spring. Remote learning in the fall will be graded. There will be accountability. We will be, have a little bit more to put forward in terms of student work.
Can you explain, and Christine, you might need to jump on this too, but one of the questions I had was in terms of our ability to have all staff members participate in Zoom meetings. Is that something that we struggled with in the spring, really, in terms of subscription? Do we have sort of, I'm not sure how it works. So, and I think our parents might, and our caregivers might be a little confused as to how vast, of a subscription do we have? Is it accessible to all of our staff members?
So Christine, I could start, and then if you want to jump in. So that was a big focus area for us in terms of making decisions in the spring about what we wanted to invest in. And the feedback that we got from parents, from teachers, from students is that the live, synchronous lessons are the ones that are really more impactful when students have the chance to engage interactively with their teachers. So, we kind of went with the mindset of, all right, we want to make this a priority. If we're going to go remote, we want to improve and increase the amount of interactions that could happen for our students. And we also looked at the feedback data that we got on the staff survey that we had put out that really broke out different tech tools that the teachers were using. And Google Meet and Zoom were the two video conferencing models that were put out there. And we looked at it, we analyzed it with a couple of different groups, instructional leaders, teachers, administrators. And while Google Meet is nice because we're going forward with Google Classroom as another consistent platform for the district, it made sense because it all connected, but Zoom just had that many more features, and just we felt overall better quality. And well, I think Google is trying to keep up with Zoom. We didn't want to take the risk that they wouldn't be there for such a high priority item. So I worked with Christine, I worked with Jeff Weiner, and we did put together a purchase order to buy district licenses for all of our staff across the district for 2021. So everyone will have Zoom licenses. We wanted to expand it to everyone, not just teachers, because we want the opportunity for all to have as much interaction time as possible. So I felt good about that.
Yeah, that's a huge concern.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mike?
So a couple of questions. One for you, Kara, is when do we expect to have the recommendation available to us, roughly?
So the 3 plans are to be submitted to DESE by July 31st. So again, I would imagine that we're going to have conversation leading up to that in terms of what those 3 plans entail and look like. And so that will be brought to your attention. I'm not sure, after the plans are submitted, I keep kind of waiting. I'm sitting on calls and trying to look into what then happens. Like I said, Friday, the guidance we got was don't expect to have final plans for the fall announced until early August. So I think that there's going to be a chance for districts to submit their plans. And then I do think, I think that there might be guidance from DESE just in terms of what direction to go and what plan to use based on the medical guidance. And we are getting DESE is putting out a template this week for all districts to follow. which will highlight the components that they're going to be looking for in an in-person plan, a hybrid plan, and a remote learning plan. So I think that will be helpful as well. So, so we're just in the prep stage now, but if I don't have, a clear timeline, but if I had to guess, I think that we'll probably have a little bit more information early August.
Yeah, I guess, and my second question is more for the broader group. We don't have a meeting after tonight for roughly a month. And given, how critical this is there expectations that we'll have some sort of discussion between now and August 11th about this topic as a group or not? That's more for the broader group.
Tom, yep, you want to?
I don't see the necessity. I mean, the plans themselves aren't going to be submitted until July 31st. We're not going to get anything until the beginning of August. Our meeting is basically at the beginning of August, August 11th, I believe it is. We're not going to know anything until Desi gets back to us after the plans are submitted. I think we should just allow Doug and Kara and their team to do their jobs, do their work. I have full confidence that they're going to come up with 3 fabulous plans, submit them to the state, wait for the state guidance to allow us to move forward or change if we have to change, and then hold our meeting in August and approve or disapprove whatever needs to be done then.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we
I would
expect-
agree. I think that, I just would agree with Tom. I feel like if there is a need for us to call a meeting, then, we could obviously do that. But I do think that, of course, it's more of like a waiting game. And, if there's information that needs to be provided, then I'm sure Doug will let us know and we can, plan accordingly. But I guess I think it's just more like a waiting game. Would you say the same, Kara?
Yeah, I think right now we're all just trying to prepare for, with whatever we know, we're trying to prepare as much as possible. But communication, it is and it has to be a huge part of this. I know, principals are talking to parents all the time. I've had some parents reach out to me with homeschool questions or remote learning questions. So we're trying to make ourselves accessible to parents as much as possible, because we understand just the real anxiety that's here with the unknown. And, I think we're a culture that's so used to planning and having, things organized and knowing what a schedule is going to look like and really basing our lives on that. So I can completely understand the need for, to know what the potential, even the potential plans, what they could look like. So, I don't want to speak for Doug. I'm here to, represent him tonight, but I know him enough to know that he wants to communicate as much as possible and to be as transparent as possible throughout this process, so that people are in the know with whatever information we have.
So we have, forgive me if you already mentioned this, we expect to hear back from the state with our proposal approximately when?
Well, so that's the piece that I'm unclear about in terms of, I know when we were on a call, actually there was a call this morning with the commissioner and just a couple of other calls that I've been on. We're getting a little more each time. Like the deadline of July 31st came out on Friday, that, because before that Friday memo, we weren't even sure. We kind of heard they have to be submitted by August, but we didn't have a hard date. Friday got the hard date, and then I'm still waiting, and I think, others are as well, to hear more of what that process looks like after the plans are submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any? Tom, thank you.
No, I would, no, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to add support to Mr. Flynn's comments and to yours, Amy, as well, that certainly at this point and for the past couple of months, this is really a matter for the professional educators, Doug and Kara and the teams. Certainly, as I think as Kara just moments ago said, Doug is always open to comments and input and guidance and so forth. But I think the last place that this really belongs is the sort of, the politics table of what everyone thinks. And now all of a sudden Facebook pages, we should do this on Tuesday and not on Wednesday. And I think we just have to give the trust and confidence to the professional educator team that they'll put something together, and we obviously will have final say at it. But there's, with so much unanswered and so many questions that have been swirling around since really March, right? Never mind now. I think we just have to put some good faith in the people that we're empowered to make these quality decisions.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of your comments in that regard. I let the experts do it and don't get in their way while they're doing it. That's fine.
And if I can just add to I think, we're all taking comfort in, the collaboration, not only within our district, but the collaboration with other districts. And I think, local superintendents and, I know I'm on an assistant superintendent listserv that recently put out a shared folder where everyone's putting in, shared documents and shared plans, and really, no one's trying to go in a drastically different direction, I think, than from a district that's comparable to them. I think you're always going to have differences when you're talking about a large urban district or a small rural district in terms of what they can and cannot pull off. But I think, districts are really looking to each other, for some similarities and consistency, because we're all under the same pressures right now, really grappling with the same struggles in each of the districts, just trying to take care of all of our people, take care of our teachers, our staff, our students, our parents. So that's really the priority.
I'd just like to jump in on that too. I'm on a listserv with business managers, and the collaboration between business managers and districts has been phenomenal. People are throwing out, just what do you think about this? Can you share what you've already presented to your district? I'm worried about this. What about you? It's just really, because everyone's struggling the same way. And it's just really nice to feel that you're not alone. Everyone has the same concerns. Did you hear this? What's that Zoom call for the commissioner? It's just really nice to see people working together.
Definitely.
Thank you all. Any other questions for Kara? Okay, then I will move forward with the agenda. We are now down to the subcommittee reports, finance and facilities. Chris.
We've continued to meet every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. We did not meet last week because it was a holiday week. There is a meeting scheduled for this Thursday as well, just to check in, see if there's any changes that need to be made. The meeting's getting shorter because there really seems to be a less hard facts to deal with, and we seem to have a better grip on things, and at least for what we know. But there is a meeting scheduled again for this Thursday morning at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Chris. Labor and personnel, Tom.
Thank you. So certainly under the heading of everything that we've been talking about with regard to school reopening and those matters, we are going to need to have a meeting of the labor subcommittee. We are going to need to have a conversation engagement with Unit A, very likely with Units B and C as well, with regard to some expectations, perhaps extraordinary expectations, one-time extraordinary expectations. And I think that's all part of the communication that we spoke about, in the last conversation from Kara's report about school opening. But we have an official capacity and official means in that way to engage the union, the staff members that are part of the union. So we'll need to have a labor relations subcommittee meeting within the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we'll report back to the full committee about how that works itself out. With that in mind, Amy, we have a vacancy in the labor relations subcommittee. So I politely remind you of that.
Thank you. Yes, it's on my list.
I'm sure it is. Just pointing that out because we are going to need to meet with ourselves and then with the unions within the next month. That's for sure. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Next is the Student Services Subcommittee. That's me. We have not met. I have nothing new to report, but I do think that, I would also like to schedule a meeting just to kind of touch base in regards to, as the school year approaches. So I will keep you guys posted on that. And policy and communication, Susie.
Yep. So we did meet and kind of covered some kind of very tactical items regarding policy updates that have been made and that needed to be updated on the website. and just kind of reviewing some of the policy work that we've done over the past months to then kind of review and make sure that those were on the website as expected. And so we identified a couple of things that needed to be fixed. The majority of our conversation, though, ended up revolving around communication, the communication part of our subcommittee's role, and kind of the opportunity that we have as we head into the fall to maybe open the doors up and invite parents to come and be a part of a conversation about communication and how we could improve and streamline some of our communication. You know, what has gone well, what could be improved, kind of the general feeling that communication is going to be so critical coming into the fall. No matter kind of what model we end up in, communication is going to be really important. The conversation also, we spent some time talking about some of the diversity and race conversations that have been going on in the community, and how we might use this open session to also kind of have some conversation about improving community and supporting parents and families, particularly families of color. And so we kind of started going down a path of having this kind of bigger conversation, hopefully sometime in early August, that would be an open to parents, PTO groups, parents, whoever really wants to come and who wants to spend some time talking about communication and kind of community building. So we don't have that date set yet, but I suspect that it will be in the first couple of weeks of August. We're going to get that date nailed down and communicate that once we have a date set. But that's really what we spent kind of the last meeting was reviewing what we had done and kind of thinking about what the future looks like for that team with a real focus on communication.
Great. Thank you, Susie, for that. All good information. Next on the agenda is our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 11th. And I'm just wondering, I may touch base with Doug and Ryan to see if we could possibly meet at WCAT, depending on kind of, where we're at in the world. And I guess we'll just have to see if we could possibly do it. I'm just starting to toy with the idea of possibly making it back into the studio. So I just want you guys to know that, but the date is scheduled for August 11th at 7:30. School committee, sorry, Tom, yes.
No, thank you. So thank you. So very briefly, and I should have brought this up under your comments earlier with regard to the Human Rights Commission and the 3 appointments from the school committee. So I'm sorry that time passed and I neglected to bring it up. We have all received a letter from the chair of the Human Rights Commission with regard to the upcoming appointments made by the school committee and the vacancies. And I thought it was a very well done and very well written letter, responsive to the things that we as a committee, and I think many members of the community had hoped the Human Rights Commission would be taking as a stance as they move forward and sort of reorganizing and reevaluating their work. One of the things that the chair of the HRC offered that I'd like to just throw out here for either our conversation or certainly for your consideration, Amy, would be that when the time to actually make those appointments come to be, that we invite the applicants, or at least those that may have been narrowed down, to come in and have a public conversation with the school committee around our thoughts, around our expectations. I know it had been a very appropriate process last time, but if we certainly can improve upon things, and we should always be seeking to do improvement. And I think the more that we can make an appropriate, a stand about, our expectations of those that are representing not only the Wakefield School Committee, but the Wakefield School Department on the HRC. I think there's incredible value there. So I just throw that out. Again, I meant to do it under your report, so I know this is sort of another last time to bring things up before the meeting ends. So I put that out there for your consideration, Madam Chair. When the time comes to make those appointments, do we invite those individuals in for public conversation?
Yeah, thank you. I'm working closely with Ann Santos, who's chair of the town council, in regards to details. And I do think that inviting the applicants, is something that would be great, and just to keep it as transparent as possible. So I really do like that idea. Again, we're shooting for sometime in September, so I'll keep you all posted in terms of what we get for potential candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, school committee comments. I guess I'll just continue with the same format I was using. Susie?
Sure. I actually have a couple things. First, just a reminder to parents about the survey, which Kara, you didn't mention during your part, but a survey went out on July 3rd asking for parents for feedback regarding kind of the opening this fall. And so if you haven't gotten a chance to fill that out, I know a couple of people that I've spoken to, it went to their spam folder. So definitely be sure to look for that. It was sent on July 3rd. And I think it was from the Wakefield.
It was from the school messenger. It came out from the school messenger. So it would say from superintendent, I believe, or Wakefield Public Schools superintendent, I believe that's what it should be from.
Yep.
We have, I will say, we want as much feedback as possible. And I can certainly see if we can send a reminder out as well, like a follow-up email. I actually just did that with the staff survey again today, just to get it out one more time, just to make sure that we're accounting for everyone. But the parent one has been pretty, we had pretty high response rates. I think over 1,800 responses so far. So which is great, but we'll take more, because I think that the more feedback, the better. So I can talk about a follow-up reminder email for that.
Yeah, and Kara, even if to give people a deadline so that they know kind of how much longer you're collecting data, if it's the end of the week but I think a reminder would be great.
Yeah, it went out right before 4th of July. I think it was that Friday. I've lost track of the days, whatever day that was. I think the 2nd or 3rd. But so I think we're kind of thinking in our mind, let's let it run for 2 weeks. So yeah, it would be maybe a reminder this week to wrap up by Friday would be good. Okay, thanks, Susie.
Yep. My second comment was as the liaison to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. I wanted to give a quick update from our last meeting, which happened last week. At the highest level, I think it's worth mentioning that the committee had a member of the Green Communities organization, which is an organization that's state-run, that if you meet certain criteria, you become eligible for grants and state money. And many of the communities around Wakefield are already considered green communities. This is not something that Wakefield has pursued in the past, but is interested in pursuing at this time. And so we had someone come and speak to that committee about kind of what it takes and what are the different things that need to happen. There would definitely be some impact on the schools if we were to apply for that. You apply to become a member every fall, I believe. And there's a number of things that would have to happen ahead of that. One of them has to do with kind of reducing energy consumption by 20%. So they do a benchmark, and then you've got to reduce it by 20%. You've got to buy fuel efficient, not necessarily electric, but fuel efficient vehicles for town-owned vehicles. I'm not sure if the school owns very many vehicles, but that might be something. But it is something that the town is starting to look at. I think it would be a while before we would need to really be engaged in the process and really understanding what the implication would be. But Christine, it's probably good for you to know because there's probably some financial implications, and just wanted everybody aware that that's kind of a discussion that's happening at that committee level, and it would obviously need to go to town council for consideration. So that's really just a heads up of something. There has been some questions that have come up about recycling in the schools and composting and all of the great programs that that were happening in the elementary schools before COVID hit. And my comment to them is just like, we got bigger fish to fry right now. We're not even sure that kids are going to be in a cafeteria. Like we just can't spend any time talking about that. So I have kind of set the expectation that while we'd love to get back to those things, at this point that's not anything that we're having any conversation about, nor should we be. So that's really what happened at that meeting. And then the last thing I'd like to say is my family and I had the opportunity to go to the Megan Burnett Foundation softball tournament and sit at Flats Field and watch the Wakefield seniors softball team play together on Sunday. And it was just so great to see the field. It's not quite complete and the scoreboard's not there yet, but the field is gorgeous, and the girls just looked really thrilled to be playing together. And we didn't play a huge role in that, but certainly it was really nice to see, considering kind of the time that we spent listening and hearing Bob kind of make, and the girls kind of make the plea for the team getting a field that they so deserved. So it was really great, and I'm glad that we supported Bob and the team in getting that done. That's it from me.
Great, thank you, Susie. Tom Flynn.
Not much for me. I just wanted to, again, reach out to and express our condolences to Doug and his family and let him know that we're here to support him and his family in their time of need. And to also reiterate my thanks to Doug and Kara and all their team for the hard work that they've been doing in regards to the reopening plans. And I just make the suggestion that you take all of the time that you have and make sure that the plans you submit are solid, good, hard-working plans, and take the governor's joke and consider it a term paper and turn it in on the last day that you have available to you, and just make sure that it's a good, solid, hard-working plan. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Markham.
Thank you. Yes, I guess following up and a little tongue-in-cheek on Mr. Flynn's comments, right? Something that is turned in on time is on time. Something turned in early is on time. Something turned in late is late. So no extra points for early. Anyways, I just wanted to add to that and just put a point that Christine and the business office team really had as much of a struggle as really anyone, certainly behind the scenes. But often everyone behind the scenes makes the railroad run on time, and pulling together the budget the way we did in tremendously difficult circumstances, having to reorganize the FY21 budget and well after it was all in play, and there's still that work to do. I think the work that you had done to prepare for tonight's meeting. And I think the unanimous support that you got around the table tonight is a clear indication of the solid work that you've done to make this year close nicely. The fact that you had really done some extraordinary work around the revolving funds. I meant to say this at the time too, to see that what in good stead they all are. In some cases, better than they were last year. So really an awful lot of energy went into making all that work. And in addition, certainly the partnership with the town, that we as a community are in this COVID business together. So this is not this is the time to do nothing but to collaborate. So congratulations on the business and the budget front as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Chris.
You look like you almost forgot me.
No, never.
I would also like to express some gratitude to the administration and all the staff for getting the year closed out in such a neat and tidy manner for us to put a bow on it tonight. I know it wasn't easy and a lot of juggling, more than average. Also, I just like to, hope everybody gets to take a breather and enjoy some vacation time. And summer is here, even though it might feel different. And enjoy the summer while we can. There's a lot of work to be done, but we still need to make sure we take time for ourselves too.
Thank you, Chris. Colleen.
Yes, Christine, before I give you more praise and your staff, I forgot to ask you this before when we were talking about, Zoom subscription and all of that. In the meeting that we had with Commissioner Riley this morning, I believe one of his staff members, I can't remember her name, but she had mentioned the $25 million grant for tech and internet support, and that was due this coming July 21st. So I meant to check in on that. I know you're on top of it, but that seemed like great news for obviously the state, but us as a district, and it's a need-based grant, but I'm hoping that we can also get support from that as well. So that was sort of just a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, we're aware of that. It is a competitive grant, but we are working in collaboration with our tech department, with Jeff, and we're putting something together. So fingers crossed.
Yeah,
there's opportunities out there, and we're going for it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for all of that work on top of that. And I just wanted to, sort of piggyback on what Tom and Chris had said, all of our members. It's really quite a feat, an amazing feat to end where we ended. And I think that we're very fortunate. Not every district can do that and do it with sort of just the delicacy and hard work that you and I think in one of our emails commended your staff there at central office for all of their hard work through all of this. And we're just sort of in the middle of the road, I think, with all of this, and just great confidence in your entire team. So thank you.
No, thank you for that, everyone. I just have to tell you, I've been so fortunate. I have a team that is just phenomenal. They know so much. They've been here in Wakefield much longer than I, and I can rely on them, and I'm just very fortunate. Thank you.
Great to hear.
Mike.
Sure. Well, I wanted to, first of all, recognize Chris and Tom Flynn, and welcome. Glad to be on with you. You missed my spiel last meeting, so I'm certainly looking forward, and I'm sure I'm going to ask a whole lot of dumb questions along the way, so I appreciate your patience. I was thinking about, the task in front of you, Kara and Doug and everybody right now about, what is school opening going to look like? And in some ways, I wonder whether it'll be even more challenging than what you already went through around having to close the schools and establish an at-home learning structure in place. So I guess I echo Chris's words, rest up while you can, because it's probably going to be a long run for us, you in particular, once this thing starts, because there's so many varied opinions about the spectrum of learning from home versus everybody being in the school and everything in between. I suspect the biggest challenges are going to be establishing criteria for transitions that are probably inevitable during the course of the year, where we may start out with a hybrid and hopefully move to an in-person. I hope we don't go backwards, but that's going to be challenging. Under the best of circumstances, it's tough running a large education system like Wakefield has, and a very impressive one at that, with a structural platform of how you're going to educate moving underneath you. It makes it even that much more difficult. So I suspect we have quite a bit of work, and once again, you guys in particular. So hopefully, we can support you wherever we can.
Thank you. You've all been very supportive, and I can't say enough about our Wakefield Public Schools team, our administrators, our teachers, our staff. Everyone is just get all in. How can we help? Coming up with ideas, coming up with thoughts, coming up with scenarios. So I'm comforted by the collaboration that's happening right now. Like I said, not only in the district but outside of the district as well. So yeah, a lot of work ahead, a lot of change, moving parts, but I feel confident in the team. We're going to just all keep plugging away at this, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Kara. Yeah, Christine, I mean, just thank you, you know, for all your hard work. And I guess more importantly, putting up with all my phone calls to you. So thank you for that. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge the passing of Charles Rollins last week. He was a devoted softball coach in Wakefield for, you know, over 20 years. And his dedication to Wakefield girls softball is just unmatched. So, you know, my condolences go out to his family. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Always forget. Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of July 14th, 2020.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, me, yes. Ms. Veyer,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that adjourns our meeting for this evening. Thank you all so much. And, you know, I echo what Chris and Mike said, try and get some rest and enjoy hopefully some sunshiny days in our future. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.
Take care now.
Right on. Peace.